September 17, 1986. Hyde Park Barracks, London, 4:30 p.m. The moment Princess Diana laid eyes on Captain James Hewitt, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Genuine desire. The handsome cavalry officer with his ginger hair and confident smile looked nothing like her distant husband, Charles. And that was exactly the point. As James helped Diana dismount from her horse after her riding lesson, their hands lingered together longer than protocol allowed. "Same time next week, Your Royal Highness?" he asked, his voice carrying an undertone that had nothing to do with equestrian instruction. Diana's smile was radiant as she replied, "I wouldn't miss it for the world." What began as innocent riding lessons would become the most scandalous love affair in royal history, a passionate revenge romance designed to wound Charles as deeply as he had wounded her. But Diana's choice of James Hewitt wasn't accidental. She had specifically sought out a man who would drive Charles into jealous rage. The calculated seduction. September 1986. Diana's strategic choice. What the world never knew was that Diana's affair with James Hewitt was not a spontaneous romance born of loneliness. It was a carefully orchestrated campaign of revenge, planned with military precision to inflict maximum emotional damage on her unfaithful husband. Diana had spent months studying Charles's insecurities, his fears, his deepest psychological wounds. She knew that the one thing that would destroy him more than anything else was the thought of another man possessing what he had taken for granted. "Charles thinks I'm weak," Diana confided to her friend Carolyn Bartholomew in August 1986. "He thinks I'm so desperate for his love that I'll accept any humiliation. Well, I'm going to show him just how wrong he is." Diana's first step was choosing the right type of man, someone who represented everything Charles was not. Where Charles was intellectual and reserved, Diana sought passion and spontaneity. Where Charles was pale and slight, Diana wanted strength and masculinity. Where Charles was emotionally distant, Diana craved warmth and attention. James Hewitt fit the profile perfectly. A decorated cavalry officer with the lifeguards, he was ruggedly handsome, physically powerful, and refreshingly uncomplicated. Most importantly, he was exactly the type of man who would make Charles feel inadequate and threatened. "I need someone who will make Charles realize what he's lost," Diana told her sister Sarah in a private conversation that was later revealed. "Someone who will love me the way Charles loves Camilla, completely, passionately, without reservation." But Diana's choice of Hewitt carried an additional strategic advantage. His military background meant he understood discretion, loyalty, and following orders. He would be the perfect weapon in her war against Charles and Camilla. Don't miss this shocking revelation. How Diana manipulated their first meeting. The orchestrated encounter. September 1986. Diana's master plan unfolds. Diana's chance meeting with James Hewitt was anything but accidental. She had been planning their introduction for weeks, using her royal connections to engineer the perfect opportunity. The setup was brilliant in its simplicity. Diana expressed interest in improving her riding skills, something that would require private lessons away from the public eye. Her equerry, who was unaware of her true motives, arranged for Captain Hewitt to provide instruction at the Household Cavalry's facilities in Hyde Park. Diana prepared for their first meeting like a woman going to war. She chose her outfit carefully, fitted riding breeches that showed her figure to advantage, a crisp white shirt that emphasized her natural beauty, and minimal makeup that gave her an air of vulnerable innocence. When she arrived at the barracks, Diana made sure to appear slightly nervous and in need of protection. "I'm rather nervous around horses," she told Hewitt, though she was actually an accomplished rider. "I hope you'll be patient with me." Hewitt, like most men, was immediately captivated by Diana's combination of royal status and apparent vulnerability. "Don't worry, Your Royal Highness," he assured her. "I'll take very good care of you." Those words carried more meaning than either of them realized at the time. Diana's strategy during that first lesson was to create an atmosphere of intimacy and shared danger. She allowed herself to appear slightly unsteady on horseback, giving Hewitt multiple opportunities to steady her with his hands, to stand close to her, to play the role of protector. "Thank you," she whispered after he helped her down from the horse, letting her hand linger in his. "I feel so much safer with you here." The sexual tension was palpable, and Diana could see the effect she was having on the handsome officer. His professional composure was cracking, and she hadn't even begun to truly seduce him yet. You won't believe what Diana did to accelerate their romance. The seduction campaign. October 1986. Diana's emotional warfare. Over the following weeks, Diana launched a seduction campaign that was as psychologically sophisticated as it was physically irresistible. She understood that to truly capture Hewitt's heart and use him effectively in her war against Charles. She needed to make him feel like he was rescuing her. Diana began sharing carefully selected details about her marital problems, painting herself as a lonely, misunderstood woman trapped in a loveless marriage. "Charles doesn't understand me," she would say during their riding lessons, her eyes glistening with tears that were both genuine and strategically deployed. "He's so cold, so distant. Sometimes I wonder if he's capable of real love." Hewitt, a naturally protective man, found himself increasingly drawn into Diana's emotional world. She would call him at odd hours, supposedly to discuss riding techniques, but actually to share her fears and vulnerabilities. "James," she said during one late-night phone call, "do you think I'm attractive? Charles makes me feel so unwanted." The question was devastating in its simplicity. What man could resist a beautiful, vulnerable princess asking for reassurance about her desirability? "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever known," Hewitt replied, crossing a line that could never be uncrossed. Diana's response was perfect. "You're just being kind, but it means everything to me to hear you say that." She was reeling him in with expert precision, using her pain as bait and her beauty as the hook. But Diana's masterstroke came when she began inviting Hewitt to Kensington Palace for private riding consultations. The intimacy of being in her personal space, surrounded by the trappings of her royal life while she shared her deepest secrets, proved irresistible. The affair ignites. November 1986, the point of no return. The sexual tension between Diana and Hewitt had been building for weeks when they finally crossed the line from emotional intimacy to physical passion. The moment came during what was supposed to be a routine consultation about Diana's riding technique. Diana had arranged for the staff to be dismissed early, ensuring they would be completely alone in her private apartments. She wore a simple white dress that emphasized her vulnerability while flattering her figure, and she made sure to position herself where the afternoon light would catch her hair and illuminate her legendary beauty. "James," she said, looking up at him with those famous blue eyes, "I need to ask you something personal." "Of course, Your Royal Highness. Do you think Charles would care if he knew how much time we've been spending together?" The question was loaded with implication, and both of them knew it. Hewitt's response revealed his own growing feelings. "I think any man would be insane to take you for granted, even if that man were the future King of England, especially if that man were the future King of England." Diana moved closer to him, close enough that he could smell her perfume, see the vulnerability in her eyes, feel the warmth of her body. "James, I need to tell you something. These weeks with you have been the happiest I've felt in years. You make me feel like a woman again, not just a royal obligation." The confession was devastating in its honesty, and Hewitt found himself powerless to resist. When Diana reached up to touch his face, whispering, "Charles has Camilla. Why shouldn't I have someone who actually cares about me?" Any remaining professional boundaries crumbled. Their first kiss was desperate, hungry, filled with months of suppressed desire, and Diana's need for revenge against her unfaithful husband. Don't miss this explosive revelation: how Diana used Hewitt to torment Charles, the revenge strategy. December 1986, January 1987, Diana's psychological terrorism. Once Diana and Hewitt became lovers, Diana began using their affair as a weapon against Charles with devastating effectiveness. Her strategy was to make Charles aware of the relationship without being able to prove it, driving him to distraction with suspicion and jealousy. Diana's first move was to mention Hewitt constantly in Charles's presence, always in innocent contexts but with an underlying tone that suggested deeper involvement. "James is such a wonderful riding instructor," she would say at dinner, her eyes sparkling. "He's so patient, so gentle with me. I feel completely safe when I'm with him." Charles initially dismissed these comments, but Diana's persistence began to plant seeds of suspicion. "Charles," she would say, "James thinks I have natural talent for riding. He says I have excellent form." The way she emphasized the word form made Charles uncomfortable, though he couldn't quite articulate why. Diana escalated her psychological campaign by sharing innocent details that carried sexual undertones. "James says I need to work on my seat. He's been giving me very hands-on instruction. The key is finding the right position and maintaining rhythm. James has such strong hands. When he guides me, I feel like I could do anything." Charles began to notice changes in Diana's behavior that fueled his growing suspicions. She seemed happier, more confident, almost glowing. She hummed while getting dressed, smiled at private thoughts, and displayed a sexual confidence that had been absent from their marriage for years. Most disturbing of all, Diana had stopped pursuing Charles emotionally. Where she had once been clingy and desperate for his attention, She now seemed perfectly content without him. The change was so dramatic that Charles began to wonder what or who was making his wife so satisfied. The confrontation. February 1987. Charles's jealous rage. Charles's suspicions reached a breaking point when he discovered a personal note from Hewitt in Diana's riding jacket. The message was ostensibly professional, but carried undertones that made Charles's blood run cold. "Diana, thank you for yesterday's session. Your progress has been remarkable, and I look forward to our next private lesson. You have a natural grace that makes working with you a pleasure. Yours, James." When Charles confronted Diana about the note, her response was perfectly calculated to drive him into a jealous frenzy. "Charles," she said with feigned innocence, "James is my riding instructor. Of course he writes to me about my lessons. Why are you so interested in my correspondence?" "Diana, this note sounds rather personal." "Personal? How is a riding instructor's assessment personal?" Unless Diana paused, letting her implication hang in the air. "Unless you're jealous." "Jealous? Don't be ridiculous. Are you sure? Because you seem awfully concerned about my relationship with James." "It's rather flattering, actually. I can't remember the last time you showed this much interest in my activities." Charles's jealousy was obvious, and Diana pressed her advantage. "Charles, if you're worried about my friendship with James, perhaps you should consider why a married woman might need the attention of another man." The implication was clear. If Charles had been a better husband, Diana wouldn't have needed to seek affection elsewhere. "What exactly are you saying, Diana?" "I'm saying that James appreciates me in ways that you never have. He listens to me, supports me, makes me feel valued. If that threatens you, perhaps you should ask yourself why." Charles was speechless, trapped between his guilt over his own affair with Camilla and his growing rage at the thought of Diana with another man. You won't believe how Diana escalated the psychological warfare, the public humiliation. Spring 1987. Diana's masterful manipulation. Diana's next move was to bring her affair into the public sphere in subtle ways that would humiliate Charles while maintaining plausible deniability. She began appearing at public events with a new glow, a confidence that the press noticed and commented upon. "The princess has never looked happier," one newspaper reported. "Marriage clearly agrees with her." But Diana's real masterstroke was inviting Hewitt to increasingly high-profile social events, always with innocent explanations that couldn't be challenged publicly. When Hewitt appeared at a polo match where Charles was playing, Diana made sure to greet him warmly in full view of the cameras. "James, how wonderful to see you here. Thank you so much for all your help with my riding." The embrace lasted just a moment too long, and the way Diana's hand lingered on Hewitt's arm sent a clear message to anyone watching, including Charles. During the match, Diana was seen laughing and talking animatedly with Hewitt while largely ignoring Charles. The contrast was stark. Where Diana seemed cold and formal with her husband, she was warm and radiant with her riding instructor. The press began to notice. Princess Diana seemed particularly animated while chatting with dashing cavalry officer Captain James Hewitt, one society columnist noted. The princess appeared to hang on his every word. Charles was forced to watch his wife publicly display the kind of attention and affection that had been missing from their private relationship for years. The humiliation was exquisite, and Diana knew it. But her most devastating public display came at a military reception, where both Charles and Hewitt were present. Diana spent the evening pointedly avoiding Charles while engaging Hewitt in intimate conversation. When photographers captured Diana touching Hewitt's arm while they spoke, the image sent shockwaves through royal circles. The body language was unmistakably intimate, and everyone who saw the photograph understood its implications. Charles's reaction was swift and furious. That night, he confronted Diana in their private apartments in a scene that palace staff would later describe as explosive. The explosive confrontation. March 1987. Charles's breaking point. The confrontation between Charles and Diana was one of the most violent arguments in their marriage, fueled by Charles's jealousy and Diana's determination to make him suffer as she had suffered. "How dare you humiliate me publicly with that man?" Charles shouted, his usual composure completely shattered. Diana's response was ice cold. "Humiliate you? I was simply being friendly to a guest. If you see something inappropriate in that, perhaps it says more about your own guilty conscience than my behavior. Don't play innocent with me, Diana. Everyone can see what's happening between you and Hewitt. And what exactly is happening, Charles? Are you accusing me of something?" The question was a trap, and Charles walked straight into it. If he accused Diana of adultery, she could throw his affair with Camilla back in his face. If he didn't, he had no grounds for his anger. "I'm saying that your behavior with that man is inappropriate for a married woman." Diana's laugh was bitter. "Inappropriate for a married woman? That's rich, coming from you. Tell me, Charles, when you're with Camilla, do you worry about what's appropriate for a married man?" Charles was stunned into silence, and Diana pressed her advantage. "You have been carrying on with that woman for years, humiliating me, lying to me, making me feel worthless and unwanted. And now when I finally find someone who treats me with respect and affection, you have the audacity to be jealous? This is different, Diana. Different. How is it different? Because you're a man? Because you're the heir to the throne? Or because you think your happiness matters more than mine?" Charles had no answer, and Diana delivered her final blow. "You chose Camilla over your wife and children, so don't expect me to spend the rest of my life pining for a man who never wanted me in the first place." The words hung in the air like a death sentence for their marriage. The truth revealed. Diana's affair with James Hewitt was many things: passionate, rebellious, destructive, but above all it was strategic. It was a carefully planned revenge campaign designed to give Charles a taste of his own medicine and make him understand the pain he had inflicted on his wife. Diana succeeded beyond her wildest expectations. For the first time in their marriage, Charles experienced the jealousy, humiliation, and helpless rage that Diana had endured for years. He was forced to watch another man receive the love and attention he had taken for granted. The affair also served another purpose. It proved to Diana that she was still desirable, still capable of inspiring passion in a man. After years of being rejected by Charles, Hewitt's adoration restored her confidence and reminded her of her own power. But perhaps most importantly, Diana's relationship with Hewitt demonstrated that she was no longer the weak, dependent woman Charles and Camilla believed her to be. She was capable of deception, manipulation, and revenge, qualities that would serve her well in the battles to come. The woman who had once begged for Charles's love had become a formidable enemy, and their marriage would never recover from the war they had declared on each other. James Hewitt was not just Diana's lover. He was her weapon, her proof that she could fight back, her declaration that she would no longer be the victim in the story of her own life. Some affairs are about love. Diana's affair was about war, and in that war she had drawn first blood. The revenge was sweet, the victory was complete, and Charles would never underestimate his wife again.